You're listening to episode 64 of Liz's Healthy Table.
Looking for a healthy new way to feed your family without the hassle and hype? Welcome to Liz's Healthy Table, where your host, registered dietitian nutritionist Liz Weiss, serves up fresh and flavorful recipes with a tasty side of science, good nutrition, and fun. Are you and your family ready for some wholesome food that tastes great too? Don't change that dial. Your food adventure starts here.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today's show is guaranteed to make every recipe that comes out of your kitchen nourishing, delicious, and a joy for your family and friends to eat together. To the Mealtime Rescue this week is my guest, Maria Lichty. She's the voice and the home cook behind the beautiful food blog and now cookbook, Two Peas and Their Pod. Rounding out Maria's pod is her husband and sous chef, Josh, and her two adorable boys, who are probably the luckiest kids in the neighborhood because their parents run a successful food blog together. And together on this week's show, Maria and I will talk about her journey from wedding day to top food blogger, her adventures in the kitchen, feeding a household filled with all those guys, some of her favorite recipes from her blog and the cookbook, as well as my favorite recipes from her book. And at the end of the show, we'll give you a few cookie ideas to get you ready for the holidays. The recipes that I can't stop thinking about, and some of the ones that we do share on the show today, are Maria's Asian-Glazed sheet pan salmon and broccoli. Got to have your veggies. One pan, one spectacular meal. And her Artichoke and Spinach Dip made with Greek yogurt. Hold the mayo. Maria is a delight, and I know you are going to love every minute of our conversation. And ta-da! We are giving away a copy of the Two Peas and Their Pod cookbook to one lucky U.S. winner. So head to lizshealthytable.com/podcast to enter for a chance to win. This is a stocking stuffer that you won't want to miss. Liz's Healthy Table is brought to you by my friends at superhealthykids.com, your one-stop shop for recipes, meal plans, cooking videos, and tips for feeding kids of all ages. The show's also brought to you by the Parents on Demand Network. This is an app that's filled with parenting podcasts featuring everything from pregnancy to the challenges of parenting. For the lineup of shows and to learn more about the app, head to parentsondemand.com. Hey, Maria, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while that I've actually known you sort of virtually, but a lot of my listeners probably don't know you, and I was hoping you could just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you live, your website, all the good Maria stuff.
Sure. My name's Maria Lichty, and I live in Salt Lake City with my husband Josh and two boys, Caleb and Maxwell, and we have the food blog, Two Peas in Their Pod.
That's all you're going to tell us. You have a food blog.
You want to know more?
I want to know more. You got to tell us more. Tell me about your boys. Tell us about Josh. Tell us about where you live.
Sure. So Caleb is 8 and Maxwell's 5, and they're best brothers. They get along so well, so it makes our life easy. Mm-hmm. And we just came out with a cookbook that we're going to talk about today. And we've been working on that for the past 2 years. And we've been blogging for the past 10 years. And it's been an adventure.
Wow. I mean, 10 years. And I remember when I had the Meal Makeover Moms platform, I remember because we were one of the first folks blogging as well. And you were one of the first people food blogging. And so I just remember kind of discovering you online. But, just tell us how you got into food blogging because, 10 plus years ago, there were not a lot of food blogs out there.
Right. Well, we got into it by accident. We didn't plan on having a food blog or it being our business, but when we got married in 2008, we did all the food for our wedding because we interviewed caterers and we just couldn't find one that we absolutely loved. So I told Josh I wanted the food to be good. That was like my main focus of the wedding. So I said, let's just do it ourselves. And I think At first, he was scared. He's like, oh, what are we going to get into? But we got help from our friends and family, and we went for it, and we had a blast doing all the food for our wedding. And then after that, friends and family wanted the recipes, and we were already writing a ton of thank you notes. So I'm like, I don't want to write the recipes down for everyone, so let's just put them on a blog. Josh already had a Blogspot account that he wrote, but it was just for family. He talked about skiing and hiking and, just shared pictures for his family. So I had him log in and show me how to do it. I had no experience whatsoever, but we just started putting recipes on from the wedding. And then after that, everyone knew we were cooking together. So like, oh, will you post this recipe on the blog and this recipe? And we're like, sure. It was fun for us. And then soon strangers started coming and we're like, oh, this is a thing. Like people are actually reading this. So we decided to keep it going.
So what were some of those first recipes? Like what did you make for your wedding? I'm thinking, okay, I'd be more concerned about my manicure. I don't want to be cooking. Like, how did you do that? What'd you make?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, as long as I was in the kitchen, I was happy. I didn't stress about anything else. I didn't want to worry about the flowers or the dress. I signed those assignments out. So for me, I'm like, if I'm just baking in the kitchen, I'll be happy. So just keep me in the kitchen. We did Mediterranean spread. So it wasn't a sit-down dinner, which was nice. So it was just buffet style. And we did Mediterranean foods, which is one of my favorites. And we had like Greek salad and pita and hummus and fruit salads. We did chicken and veggie kebabs, lemon rice. So yeah, just a big spread. And then I love baking. So we had a huge dessert bar. And we did have a gelato bar that was catered out. So we didn't make gelato, which was nice.
So how did you become a cook? I mean, did you just grow up hanging out in your home kitchen? How did you learn how to cook?
Yeah, my dad, he's a really good cook and he loves to bake. So growing up, we didn't eat out much. I grew up in central Illinois where there wasn't a lot of restaurant options. And so we just always ate at home. And my dad just taught me from a young age. And I always loved being in the kitchen with him. And so I grew up doing it. And then when I went off to college, it was a necessity. And then now it's just a passion in my job. So I still love it and grateful that my dad taught me from a young age.
Mm-hmm. And what about Josh? Because he's a part of the blog as well. Is this full-time for him now as well?
Yeah, he does have a few side things he does, but mostly it's what our family does together. And I love that. I love that we can all chip in and have a family business. But Josh, he grew up cooking for his brothers, but not gourmet by any means. He made like Frito pie and stuff from a box. But I mean, he always loved doing it, just didn't really branch out until later on, until when he was in college and he would cook for all his roommates and he loves entertaining. So they would always have people over for games and whatnot. And so we both love entertaining. So that's been fun to do together.
Mm-hmm. That is fun. My husband, he's so funny. So he's in computers and he always gets mad at me when I can't figure a computer thing out. And I'm like, Tim, I did not study computers in college. This is not what I do. I said, I send you to the supermarket. I say, buy a tomato. You come home with a tomato. You put the tomato in the refrigerator. You kill the tomato. No one puts a tomato in the refrigerator. And you're mad at me because I can't write code, but you're killing tomatoes.
That's funny.
What's the deal? So yeah, I am the cook. I'm the cook, but I'm very jealous that you guys have that whole cooking thing. And the name of your blog, Two Peas in Their Pod, is so cute. How'd you come up with that? Was that your brainstorm, Josh's brainstorm?
It was actually Josh's, so he gets credit for that.
Okay, credit where credit is due.
Exactly.
And you're one of the first blogs that was out there, one of the first food blogs. And it was this sort of wild, wild west. And I can remember there was obviously Pioneer Woman and Picky Palate and What's Gobby Cooking. Like all these bloggers were out there and somehow found each other. I mean, that community you built early on, is this still your online peeps, your food friends online?
Yeah. And that's the one thing I love the most about food blogging is the community. Over the years, I've met so many dear friends through food blogging, and which is kind of funny because we work at home. It's kind of secluded, from day to day, but through chatting online and going to different conferences and events, I've been able to connect with some pretty amazing people, and it's been really fun to watch the community grow over these years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just totally blows my mind. But it's hard to kind of maintain it, and I do think some blogs come and go. You can burn out quickly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work, the day-to-day, and everything's constantly changing. So when things change, you have to decide if you want to go to the next step, learn something new, keep it going. So yeah, it's been interesting to watch the community and see who sticks around and who kind of bows out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can remember too, because again, I was an early adopter. You were an early adopter. This is before Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I mean, we were really just blogging, and then Facebook comes along and boom, that's the big thing. And then Instagram, and then Pinterest, and it all, but then it changes. You think this is a great thing, and then they change it, and you just have to go with the flow. And now there's podcasting, and here we are. It just keeps evolving.
Yeah. So, it's been a lot of learning on my end, but it's been fun, and I keep waiting to see what's going to be next, because I feel like it's kind of that time where something else is going to come out.
Right, something
that I'll have to learn.
And something we've not even imagined yet. So speaking of evolution, so you've got this blog, you and Josh, and now you've got 2 boys. I also have 2 boys, and your boys are just so cute. And I'm really happy to hear that they get along, because, when the kids get along, that makes dinner time so much easier. Nobody's fighting at the table. You can all focus on the meal. So I'm sort of curious what family dinners look like in your household with the 2 boys.
Well, it's always loud. So having boys means very loud, and Josh is loud as well. So it's always a good time. And luckily the boys love helping out in the kitchen, which has been fun. So we always get them involved. And then because Josh and I cook together, it really goes pretty quickly, and everyone has a job. So we all chip in to get dinner on the table, which makes it nice.
Mm-hmm. And are they good eaters, would you say? And what's their favorite thing to have for dinner?
For the most part, kids always go through stages. So, one day they say blueberries their favorite fruit, and then the next day you bring home, a huge thing from Costco, and then they're like, oh, I don't like blueberries anymore. And you're like, what? So, it's always changing, but for the most part, they're pretty good eaters, especially Caleb, the older one. He's really good about trying everything, and he's got a good palate on him. Sometimes you try to sneak something in, but he can taste it, or yeah. So you got to be careful with that one, because he can pick out flavors pretty well.
Oh, so he really has a good palate. Maybe he's a future chef.
Maybe we'll turn 2 peas over to him someday.
Oh, I like this. The empire continues to grow. So I'm sure you have friends who have picky eaters. Like, what do you say to them, since it sounds like you've found success at home? And I'm sure all that cooking has something to do with it.
Yeah, it's just trial and error. You got to just keep trying and not try to get down, because, again, their palates are changing, and they may say they don't like sweet potatoes, but then you're like, okay. And I always try not to make a big deal about it, because if they know they get the attention, and if you don't want them to win the battle. So I'm just like, okay, that's fine. And then just, offer a different vegetable. But then maybe the next time you're making sweet potatoes, roast them or grill them or do baked sweet potatoes. Just try it in a different way, so they can try it, a new variety, a new form, and they might like it. And one thing that works with vegetables for our kids is if we, let them dip. They love a good dip. I feel like most kids do. So if they have hummus, or, we make homemade dips all the time that they can dip their veggies in, that always helps.
And you had hummus at the wedding. It was one of your first recipes. So you are a dip person for sure.
Exactly.
So you've had the food blog for a long time. Is there one recipe on your blog that you would say is by far the most popular ever, like that epic, incredible recipe?
Ooh, that's a hard one, because we've been doing it for so long, and it just depends on the time of year and the season. But I would have to say that my dad's cinnamon roll recipe is very popular. Mm-hmm. And luckily, my dad let me share it. So, but I shared that on the blog when we didn't really think it was a food blog. And so the pictures on that post are really bad. And I keep saying, I need to update it. But I kind of love the pictures, because, it's of my dad is in the post making the cinnamon rolls. And he has people come up to him at the store or at work or wherever and be like, hey, I made your cinnamon rolls because they recognize him. So it's kind of funny.
That is so cute. I think back to our blog too from the early days, and the pictures were so awful, but we thought we were really good at the time.
I know.
I use my iPhone. I have an iPhone 10 now. I just got a new one. It's got the portrait mode, and I always just use that, and I'm super happy with it. But, I'm here in New England, and it's 2:00 now. We're chatting, and like, it's getting dark out. It's kind of sad.
I know. Daylight savings is always an adjustment.
It is. It's such a Debbie Downer. And now I'm just like, I need to go to Florida. I got to get out of here. I say to my husband, I can't take it anymore. But the food photography is fun if you can kind of get the natural light and start photographing early in the day. But are you using your phone? You guys have like the real camera. What are you doing for your photos?
I use both. So we have a big camera that we use for blog posts, but for the day-to-day Instagram, I love the iPhone. I think it has a great camera on it. So sometimes I don't even want to pull out the big guy. And especially when we travel, I'm like, I'm not lugging that guy around. So yeah, we use the iPhone a lot for pictures.
I went to your Instagram the other day and you were doing an Instagram story and you were on camera and you were in your car, which always cracks me up when I see all these awesome Instagrammers. You're like, I'm in my car getting my kids. I'll just shoot a little Instagram video here.
Yes, never when we're driving though.
Oh, thank you when you're in the carpool line, then you're like, I got 10 minutes. Good use of time. But you were talking about Halloween candy. And what do you do with all that Halloween candy? And it was so funny because I'm watching it and I'm thinking, I have an idea. And then you came up with the idea, or somebody had shared the idea. That was, you have all this Halloween candy left over. And sometimes, let's face it, it's going to last a year in the house because the kids forget about it. But donating it to a local dentist or a charity where they actually build and create gingerbread houses. A lot of people will do that with that Halloween candy. I love that idea.
Me too. And I mean, we always do gingerbread houses every year with our boys, and I'm usually scrambling to try to come up with enough like creative candy for them to use. So I put some aside to save because I'm like, this will be great come December.
Yeah.
Which isn't very far.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I think between Halloween and Thanksgiving, it's just like, it's a whirlwind.
It sure is.
Yeah. Because I know now I'm posting all these Thanksgiving recipes to the blog, which are good for the holidays as well. But yeah, it's like, you're a hamster in a cage. You got to kind of keep it going. So how would you define kind of your food style, your food philosophy? You said that you love all that kind of Mediterranean stuff, just that, you had that at your wedding. So what's kind of your food focus?
Well, we like good food and we like it to be simple. We like it to be approachable for people to make. We like to use ingredients that you can get at your everyday grocery store. We don't want to have to go to 10 stores to make a recipe. And our focus is getting families in the kitchen together.
My focus too. I love that. And, you have 2 kids. And so would you say that your focus changed then from the original blog to once the kids arrived?
Maybe a little, but our kids eat what we make. We don't really cater to them. I mean, we like them to have a variety and to try new things. And so we don't make like the typical like kids menu food. They don't just get quesadillas and chicken fingers and grilled cheese every night. We like them to branch out and try what we're having. And we've traveled a lot with them, so they've been able to try, new flavors and things. We love taking them with us to the farmer's market so they can see, what's in season, where the produce is coming from. I think all that helps kids to be good eaters if you expose them to more things. So not just sticking to, your 5 everyday recipes, which I think those are great to have, when you're busy and maybe you can tell your kid is having a meltdown and you don't want to pick a battle, then make them their favorite quesadilla or whatever. Those are always good, back pocket recipes to have. But it's always fun to try and eat new things too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that brings me to your cookbook, the 2 Peas and Their Pod Cookbook, Favorite Everyday Recipes from Our Family Kitchen. And I will tell you, Maria, that I am very picky when it comes to recipes. I am very particular about how it's written. I want to make sure the recipe works because I hate to, waste ingredients and waste my time. And I went through your book and I've made several recipes, and so far they've all been awesome. And so congratulations on...
Yay, that makes me so happy.
I am telling you, and I want my listeners to hear this, Maria definitely tested these recipes a lot because they worked like a charm and they are so good. And we're going to share a few of them. But before we do that, I just want you to tell us, like, what do you do to make sure your recipes are great? Like, what's your process from the idea that comes into your head to when it's finally on the blog or in the cookbook?
Yeah, so I always think about food. So coming up with recipe ideas isn't an issue for me. I have notebooks and notebooks full of recipe ideas, but it was just hard picking which 115 recipes would make it into the book. Because once it's in there, you can't change it. With the blog, you can always go update something, change it, or you can just keep adding more recipes. But the book, we were very picky on what recipes we wanted to include. And so the joke in our house for the past 2 years while we were creating it was, is this recipe book worthy? And so the criteria for making it into the book is if you would make it once and, it's good, it's fine, but if you wouldn't make it over and over again, then it wouldn't make it into the book. It had to be a recipe you'd make, over and over, and a recipe that you would share with others, because we want our book to be used. We don't want it just to sit on a coffee table and look pretty. We want it to have splatters and stains and flour on it, and we want people to turn to the book for busy weeknight dinners and, weekend breakfasts, or if you're having a holiday meal with your family, we want you to use our book for when you're entertaining. So we wanted it to include a little bit of everything. So it has recipes from breakfast to dessert. It has easy entertaining chapter, salad sides, it has a vegetarian main dish chapter and a meat main dish chapter. I love cookies, so there's a cookie chapter and a dessert chapter. So really a little bit of everything.
And before all those recipes even appear in the book, you give some really good tips and tricks for getting comfy in the kitchen. I mean, not everybody grew up cooking with their mom or their dad and having that experience. So you spend a lot of time helping people become confident home cooks. You talk about grocery shopping tips and meal planning tips and what the staple ingredients that you should always have on hand. And I will tell you, Maria, that I am definitely a fly by the seat of your pants meal planner. And I think I just thrive on this constant chaos in my life. I don't know what my problem is, but I seem to enjoy the chaos. And so it's like 5:00, and I always say to my husband, all right, I'm going to cobble dinner together. And then I end up with this awesome meal. I just pull stuff together. But what are some of your secrets, your tips, your tricks for becoming that confident home cook, from grocery shopping to meal planning to stocking that healthy pantry?
Yeah, well, we included a lot of those tips in the book because we wanted to set people up for success. We didn't want them to get frustrated when they turn to a recipe and not have the ingredients or, know what to have in their pantry or fridge. And so we included all those in the beginning so everyone could have a well-stocked fridge, pantry, and know what to look for when they're at the grocery store. I think having a plan is really important. So when it is 5:00 and you need dinner on the table, you're not stressing and you're not going through the drive-through or getting takeout. And it doesn't mean you have to meal plan like all Sunday long or all weekend, because who wants to spend their weekend doing that? Certainly not me, and certainly not a family, with kids who wants to be out doing things. So just a little planning here and there can make the week go a lot smoother and make sure you can get dinner on the table every night.
So Maria, if you had a list, say 5 pantry ingredients that you always have in your home, what would they be?
Ooh, that's a tough question because, again, I love a well-stocked pantry, but I'd say we always have canned beans on hand and some sort of pasta or whole grains like quinoa, farro, good olive oil is important. Nut butters. I love having nut butters on hand. And canned tomatoes. Those are great in broths for soups, especially this time of year.
Mm-hmm. Works for me. I just had for lunch today, I did acorn squash that I roasted, the halves, and then I stuffed each half with a mixture of cooked quinoa and sautéed baby kale and cabbage, red cabbage that I just kind of chopped up, and onion. And it was
that sounds
so
delicious.
Good. What else did I add to that?
Yeah, I wish I had lunch with you.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, it was so awesome. I'm going to send you a picture of this recipe. It was so good. And then, you could sprinkle tahini or something, or drizzle tahini on top, or a little bit of the nut butter, like a little almond butter or something. Mm-hmm. Very plant-based. I love that. So you break the book into recipe chapters and you start with breakfast. And you had me at page 64, which is a chapter on feeling toasty. And, you know, avocado toast, obviously very trendy, very popular. But what are some other family-pleasing toast creations that you have in that breakfast chapter? Because it's a beautiful chapter, and some of those toasty ideas I thought were perfect for busy families.
Yeah, our boys love toast. But I try to, you know, beef it up a little bit and make it more of a meal, especially like before school when I need to get some protein in them. And, you know, you can add some fruits and veggies. So we love doing, you know, fancy, fun toasts with them. And it's always fun to mix it up. One of their favorites, they love like peanut butter and honey and banana. That's a classic. But they also love almond butter and fresh peach slices in the summer. And then sometimes I'll do like hazelnuts on top or pecans. And then they love hummus on toast too. And so we'll do kind of like a Greek Mediterranean toast with hummus and cucumbers and like roasted red peppers or grape tomatoes when they're in season and a little bit of feta cheese. That's really good.
And these are all things, you know, could be lunch, could be a snack, but I love that they're breakfast. And you also have a recipe here. It's smoked salmon, and you've got this yummy looking spread. I like lox, smoked salmon. I could eat that every day. You've got avocado toast with hard-boiled eggs, sort of sliced on top. Yum.
Yeah, and coconut's another good topping. We love putting like toasted coconut or even my homemade granola. You can add that for a little crunch.
Yum.
So, yeah, and again, we try to like use what's in season, whether it's like apples, pears, peaches. Yeah, and sometimes I'll just set out the ingredients, you know, a bunch of berries and fruits and nut butters and let the kids make their own, and that's fun.
That's really fun. Yeah, I think when kids kind of build their own, I'm totally into that. Build your own meals. I think that's great.
Yeah. They usually like to make faces, smiley faces, clown faces, teddy bears. It can get a little messy, but that's all part of the fun.
I think so. Bring on the mess. Why not? So anytime I have friends over, I will always say, and you know, I have, just so you know, my boys now are almost 25 and 21. So we're empty nesters. Obviously, when they come home, there's a lot of cooking that goes on. But if I'm having friends over, I'll always say, hey, I have this new cookbook. I'm having Maria on my podcast. I'm cooking from the book tonight. And it's just a good way for me to test out recipes because I always like to try recipes from my guests, you know, before they come on the show, which is why I know that your recipes totally rock and they work and they're delicious.
Thank you.
So you have this recipe for Asian-Glazed sheet pan salmon and broccoli. So sheet pan suppers are great, right? Because everything's on the same pan. So there's not a lot of mess. Easy. My husband appreciates it because I do make him do the dishes, especially after he murders a tomato. I'm like, you're being punished. You must do the dishes. So I thought you could maybe talk us through this Asian-Glazed sheet pan salmon and broccoli recipe because the flavors were insane, so good. And I will say, just for my listeners, I have a Trader Joe's. We have like a couple in our area. They have salmon there, fresh salmon, and you can buy it just in the little, like, I don't know if they're like 4 or 5 ounce fillets. So delicious and really reasonably priced. So I'm into
good tip.
Yeah, Trader Joe's salmon. I'm totally gaga. So I've got the Trader Joe's salmon, and I'm like, all right, let me go through Maria's book. Done. I'm making this recipe. So tell everybody about the recipe, what's in it, and how do you make it? And if possible, maybe we can post this to my blog or, you know, I'll take a picture of it and share it because I want everyone to make this recipe. It's so good.
Well, I'm thrilled you loved it so much. That makes me happy. And this is one of my boys' favorite recipes too. So I know. And sometimes you think salmon with kids, like, do I go there? But again, it's all about letting them try it because I didn't think they would like this one, but they loved it. And we actually had some other family friends over and they had kids and they tried it and they gobbled it up too. So I'm like, okay, this is for sure going in the book because not only are they eating salmon, but they're eating broccoli too. So it's definitely a win. Yeah, and it's super easy because it's just a sheet pan dinner, and the glaze is Asian flavors, and it takes, you know, only a few minutes to whisk together. And I think the broccoli pairs so well with it, and it gets nice and crispy in the oven. So, you know, I think the flavors all come together really nicely, and it's quick and easy.
And I will say those Asian flavors are olive oil, you use soy sauce, and hoisin sauce, honey. You add chopped fresh mint and chopped fresh cilantro. Big surprise.
The mint and cilantro, like, give it a little pop, you know, that you aren't expecting. But again, it's so easy. Those fresh herbs just really make the dish come to life.
Yeah, and that surprised me because a lot of times when you have these Asian sauces and marinades and glazes, it's really just like the usual cast of characters. Now you're adding fresh herbs into the mix. And it's so like fresh tasting. And you added grated zest and the juice of half an orange, and you added garlic, and you've got fresh ginger, which again is another huge pop. And you've got sesame oil and red pepper flakes. And I'm a bit of a wimp, but I added them. I did it.
Yeah, you can always leave them out, but it just gives a little kick in this one.
I'm into it. Like, I'm really into the red pepper flakes. I've been adding it to a lot of recipes. You like to add it. So I've been like, I'm going to add it because if she's calling for it, it's there for a reason. and then you just bake it, and it just takes no time at all. You marinate the fish and, 30 minutes, and then you just bake everything, and it cooks up in no time. And the broccoli rather is tender, but still a little crunchy, and all these flavors. It's total win.
Yeah, and it's dinner's done. I mean, you could serve rice or quinoa on the side, but really, it's on one sheet pan. You can't beat that.
And you have another recipe for ginger garlic shrimp stir fry. I've made that recipe. You're going to be so proud of me because I had 2 dinner parties. So I'm like, all right, I'm breaking out the book again. You have a recipe for everyday butter lettuce salad. And, you're looking at it thinking it's a butter lettuce. Like, what's the big deal? But the big deal, and I'm going to tell, I hope my listeners perking up here, the big deal on your everyday butter lettuce salad is your vinaigrette. So it calls for olive oil, lemon juice, balsamic vinegar or champagne vinegar, and I use champagne, and I'm going to tell you why, honey, garlic, and kosher salt and black pepper. I think the combo of the lemon juice and the champagne vinegar is magical.
Right? And it's so easy. It's just a few ingredients. And again, if you have that well-stocked pantry, you should be set to go.
And people would think, well, you're adding lemon juice. That's your acid. You've got the olive oil. Why do you need the champagne vinegar? I don't know what it is about that combo. I've used that combo before. I don't know what it just comes together, and it's so delicious. And now you've got this tender butter lettuce, and you've got avocados and some Parmesan and sliced almonds. If you don't have almonds, use pecans or pistachios, whatever you have. Nothing better than a beautiful ripe avocado, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yes. And I take it personally when I slice one open, and it's brown inside.
Oh, that's always the worst. But you never know. It's like a gamble every time.
But don't you think over the years they've gotten better?
Yes, definitely. Even in Utah.
Even in Utah.
No, but yeah, that salad is great, and it goes with every meal. That's why I love it so much, because the flavors are simple, but it's fresh, and it can be served alongside anything.
Mm-hmm. And you could use arugula, certainly. I mean, whatever you like, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, our recipes are just kind of a start. You can always mix and match and use what you have on hand. Because again, we don't want you to run into the store if you don't need to. We just want you to get dinner on the table and have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's one more recipe I made. I made your 4-cheese spinach and artichoke dip.
Ooh, that's a good one, especially for the holidays. Everyone loves a good spinach artichoke dip.
It was so good, and I served it with sliced cucumber and sliced apple and not the bread.
Ooh, I love the apple idea. I haven't tried that.
A change of scenery, right? And some people don't do the gluten thing. Now, you can always get gluten-free bread. Mm-hmm. But I feel like, around the holidays, we overindulge, right?
A lot. We eat a lot.
So why not serve it like with the sliced cucumber and apple? And the Honeycrisp apples are so good.
Yeah, I'm going to try that. I love that idea.
Will you give me a shout out when you do, please?
Oh, for sure.
Thank you. I want credit. Thank you very much. So this recipe, just so people know, you use cream cheese. And I did get the light cream cheese. That's the dietitian in me. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. And plain Greek yogurt. You used a package of frozen spinach. And I didn't have one of those like bricks. I call them a brick. I had a bag of the frozen spinach, so I used that. And then the can of the quartered artichoke hearts, of course. Shredded fontina, mozzarella, and parm. And then you add chopped fresh basil. And there's your pinch of crushed red pepper flakes. And then salt and pepper. And I like that the basil's in there. Again, you're upping the flavor with those herbs.
Yeah, and the Fontina cheese is really nice too because it's super melty, and so I think it makes a difference in how creamy the dip is.
Oh, interesting. I was sort of wondering why you had the
Yeah,
fontina in there.
most recipes call for mayonnaise, but I'm not a huge mayonnaise fan, and so I use Greek yogurt, and again, it kind of lightens it up just a bit. I mean, there's a lot of cheese in there, but still. And we always have Greek yogurt on hand too. So again, why run to the store when you don't need to? And again, using that instead of sour cream.
Yeah, I feel like the Greek yogurt has like a cleaner flavor. It's rich and you get more protein too. Not that you need it in this recipe, but I love subbing it too.
Yeah. I'm glad you liked it.
We had 2 friends over, so it was just the 4 of us, and I made this. And when I tell you we pretty much ate the whole thing, and my husband was like, wow, Nancy and Jim are really big eaters. I'm like, yeah. I mean, but we are too. And I'm going to tell you that my friend Jim, who came over, and I had made the salad and this dip, and we did the stir-fry shrimp. This was like the Maria night.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Jim loved the meal, and I'm going to just tell you, Maria, that my friend Jim is a chef, and for 12 years, he lived in Berkeley and he worked at Chez Panisse for Alice Waters.
Oh, nice.
So this man is like top echelon chef. So of course
he knows his food.
He knows his food. And I was like, ooh, what am I going to make for dinner? Because we ate at their house last year and he was like searing duck on the grill and, you know, had this lovely salad. I'm like, what am I going to make? And he loved it. He loved the meal.
Oh, well, I'm so honored.
The pressure was on.
Tell him thank you. I'm glad he enjoyed it.
Yeah, a lot of pressure there when you have a chef over for dinner.
Yeah, that is.
Mm-hmm. Is there a favorite recipe in the book like that your kids just want over and over again? Like, is there a go-to or does it kind of depend?
Well, we are constantly mixing things up just because we love trying new things and making different dishes every night. But they love the slow cooker spaghetti and meatballs. That's a classic. And let's see, they love the black bean quinoa enchilada bake. That's a favorite. The pesto Havarti mac and cheese is a big hit with the kids. Mm-hmm. And I love it because, I mean, it's mac and cheese, but it's kind of a twist and, you know, an elevated version of the classic. And let's see, they love the enchilada stuffed sweet potatoes, which I was a little nervous about, but they really like those ones. And yeah, that's in a lot of the soups they like. The tomato basil soup with the cheesy garlic dunkers. Again, anything they can dunk or dip, they're on board. That's
a cute name too. Calling anything a dunker. Like, of course you're going to have to eat it. You know, if you don't eat it, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think too, though, when we eat out, you know, we go to Asian restaurants or Mexican restaurants, I think kids today are becoming so much more exposed. When I was a kid, going out to eat was very rare. You know, if we went out to eat, it might be Chinese food on a Sunday, or it might be like a local hamburger joint, but it was expensive. There weren't a lot of options, and you just didn't take kids out to eat. And if we did go out to eat, 3 daughters, we had to be very quiet. You know, we don't want to disturb the other customers. And so it wasn't like a fun thing necessarily. Now I feel like it's such an adventure for kids. And then you can, I think, you know, you have more success at home because the kids are trying it in a restaurant.
Yes, that's, again, I believe in just exposing them to as many foods as possible and, you know, different ways of preparing the foods. And again, letting them have a hand in the meal, like when you can at home, because then I think they're going to eat it more. And we also meal plan with the boys. So on Saturday or Sunday, we have a meal chart. And we sit down and be like, okay, what do you guys want this week? And they give us suggestions, and they'll look through the cookbook or on the blog or in magazines or, you know, just different ideas, and they shout out what they want. And they love having Taco Tuesday every week. And so we usually do tacos, but we always mix them up. So we'll do steak or veggie or chicken. So just getting them involved in the entire process really helps, because then if they complain that night, they're like, oh, I don't want tacos. But it's like, hey, you guys picked it. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we did. And then they kind of change their attitude a little bit.
Cute, cute. Is there a favorite cookbook that you have? Like, do you find yourself turning to, you know, a particular cookbook? Like, I'm completely obsessed with Yotam Ottolenghi. Not that it's like everyday cooking, but I love, like for holidays, always refer to him. But do you have sort of a go-to, would you say? Or do you tend to just dip into your blog and your book?
I mean, we do make our recipes probably the most, but my favorite cookbook of all time is Baking from My Home to Yours by Dory Greenspan. I love to bake, and I feel like that book is very solid. Dory writes so well. I mean, I love all her cookbooks, but that one is special to me. I got that book before I started blogging, and she kind of got me into the food scene. And then luckily I've been able to meet her at different events and conferences, and we've become good friends. And she actually wrote a nice quote for my book. So it's kind of full circle. Our family just adores Dory, and that book, I love so many of the sweet recipes inside.
Well, that's huge that she wrote a quote, and I will read it to everybody. She says, Maria's style is smart and practical, her food nourishing and easy to make. Whether it's breakfast for kids or dinner for friends, Maria's recipes and her good advice, make sure to read her tips and notes, will see you through, even if you're a beginner in the kitchen. This book is bound to keep the peas in your pot happy and well-fed. That's so cool. That's so cool when you get to sort of meet an icon and then you become friends.
Yes.
Very fun. I actually met Julia Child many times over the years.
Oh, you did? How fun.
We're kind of neighbors. You know, I live in Lexington, Mass, and she was in Cambridge, just down the road. And I worked at CNN back in the day, and we'd interview her and, you know, see her at a conference. And she was good friends with my mentor, Carolyn O'Neill, who's been on the podcast, who I worked with at CNN. So it's just like amazing that I had, you know, all of these interactions with her over the years. Like, I didn't realize how lucky I was at the time.
Yeah, that's so neat.
I can remember, and I might have shared this on the podcast, when I was pregnant. I don't know if it was Josh or Simon. I was shooting, was freelancing for CNN, and they sent me over to Julia's house. She was shooting a new series with Jacques Pepin. So the two of them are cooking, and there's all these people like food styling and writing the recipes and writing cookbooks. Like, all this is happening at the same time. They don't just shoot a show. They're like making a cookbook out of it. And there's like people everywhere in pantries and props and everything. I'm hanging out with Jacques and Julia, and they kept offering me wine. Would you like a glass of wine? I'm like, no. Pregnant. How about some wine, Liz? I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good. It just didn't even matter, you know? Just, join the fun. And the whole time Julia was in the kitchen with Jacques, they'd be like yelling in her, you know, before they were kind of getting ready to, you know, roll tape. Posture, Julia, posture. Because she was like 90 at the time, you know? Posture, Julia.
Oh, that's funny.
So fun. So, you know, I'm a dietitian, as you know, hence the light cream cheese, but I still do love dessert. Now, I must admit, I've not tackled the cookies or the desserts yet in your book, but tell us about some of the favorite desserts in the book. And I need an honest answer here. How many sticks of butter do you go through on any given week? Be honest.
Oh, man.
No lying allowed now, Maria.
I mean, it really depends on the time of the year. So in the summer, I don't do as much baking because it's hot and you just want lighter and fresh. But during the holiday months, like right now, our fridge is stocked with butter and we will go through a lot.
So that's your answer, madam, a lot.
Yes,
okay.
I can't even count those sticks. But yeah, I love baking. It's fun. I love being creative in the recipes I do, and I have a sweet tooth. So, but luckily I like vegetables too. So it's all about balance. We do have a lot of vegetable-friendly recipes in the book as well, but I wanted to make sure that the sweet shined. So there's a cookie chapter and a dessert chapter. Cookies are my all-time favorite dessert. I love them. I don't really need fancy pastries, and if I had to choose, it would be a cookie for dessert. So yeah, and so the cookies are my favorite, but there's also a dessert chapter that has a really good chocolate cake. It's very rich, but very decadent, special, perfect for occasions when you're celebrating. And the key lime bars are Josh's favorite. And then we also love the berry galette in there. The galette dough is so good. And you can really use any fruit. So this time of year, if you wanted to make it for Thanksgiving, you could do apples or pears. And we like to serve it with that vanilla mascarpone whipped cream. It's so good.
Oh, yum. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then there's a brown butter banana cake with brown butter cream cheese frosting. That's just very, you know, simple. It's just in a 9x13 pan. You don't have to layer it or do anything crazy. It's a good one to take to potlucks and things like that. So I feel like there's a little bit of everything, a lot of kid-friendly desserts, but there's a few more elevated ones too.
Oh, that berry galette looks really good. Wow. And I love a bundt cake. You've got lemon poppy seed bundt cake.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. All right. So I'm going to tackle desserts next. That's going to keep me busy. And I'm glad the holidays are here because Hey.
Because you have a reason to bake.
Maybe I'll have a cookie swap. Ooh.
There you go. Yeah, there's 12 cookie recipes in the book because I wanted to make sure we had a wide variety. Mm-hmm. And the brown butter salted caramel snickerdoodles are a holiday favorite. Every time I take those to a cookie swap or party, everyone is like, what is this? Because everyone loves snickerdoodles. And so just a different version. The brown butter is amazing. And then you find that caramel surprise in the center with a little bit of sea salt. It's so good.
Oh, yum. I have a recipe on the blog for 7-layer bars, but I make them healthier. And one of the layers is mashed chickpeas.
Oh,
and it works really well. And
I love that idea.
We have walnuts and oats and dried cranberries. And so there's still sweetened condensed milk, but I use is it the lower fat one or the lower sugar? I can't quite remember. Uh-huh. And so there's some better for you ingredients. There's oats. And so it's not like overly sweet, because I have a friend, Pam. I hope she's not listening. I love her. She makes these 7-layer bars that are so insane, but they're almost like too sweet for me.
They like hurt your teeth. Yes.
Like your eyes pop. And so I gave them a little makeover, and they're still special, but definitely a little bit on the healthier side with the old can of chickpeas in there.
Yeah.
So what's your next big adventure? Another cookbook? Like what's up your sleeve? What's happening next?
Oh, I think we just want a break. I'm like, maybe Hawaii on the beach for a family vacation. Mm-hmm. The cookbook was a big project for us. And so the last few months I've just been touring and doing book signings and things like that. So I think after the holidays, we're hoping just to relax a little bit and then get back to the blog and keep creating recipes for the blog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a much-deserved vacation. And I know on your book tour that you ambled through Oklahoma, right? You met with all the Pioneer Woman folks out there and did a book signing?
We took the family to Oklahoma and had a great time. We did a book signing at the Mercantile with Ree, and she's just fabulous. And the turnout was great. Everyone was so welcoming and excited about the book. So it was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. And I think it's just cool that she's created this whole, destination around.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a fun town. It's a small town, but she's really made it come to life. And the boys had a blast there.
Oh, get a little rodeo action going, right?
Yes.
That'll keep any little boy happy. I have this last question for you. So I've got this mason jar, and I stuff it with just little mystery questions, and I'm going to pull one out.
Okay, pressure's on.
It's never that. They're never that hard or scary, I promise. Okay, here we go. What is your favorite food city? So a city you've been to or a town that you were just like blown away by the food.
Oh, this is a tough one because I love to travel, and we've been to a lot of good food cities. I was just in Austin, and I love Austin. The food is so great there. So I'll have to say Austin right now.
That's a good one. Yeah, I was there last year as well. And what was this hamburger place we went to that's kind of famous there? Gosh, I forget the name of it because I have an awful memory. But they literally are like grinding the meat right there.
Oh,
and
nice.
It's all local from local cattle. And obviously you're going to get some really good guacamole when you're in Austin.
Oh, yes. And the breakfast tacos are my favorite.
Yeah. Good answer, Maria.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a pleasure chatting with you. I hope to run into you maybe at a conference at some point.
Yes, that would be so fun. Or maybe we can cook together.
Ooh, that would be really fun. Well, maybe I need to come out to Salt Lake. I haven't been out there in a long time. I think my skiing days might be over. I just don't feel like, I don't know. I'm not the most confident skier anymore. I'm feeling more beachy. Now that you mentioned Hawaii, I think that's maybe more of my stars.
Well, my boys ski, so they can ski and we can make them a nice meal when they come in from the cold.
That sounds really good. We'll have so much fun over the holidays and promoting your book and relaxing and baking and whatever you're doing. But it was just so great to have you on the show. I'm glad we finally connected.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. Don't forget, we are giving away a copy of the Two Peas in Their Pod Cookbook. So head on over to the show notes from today's show over at lizshealthytable.com/podcast. Don't forget to join the podcast posse on Facebook. If you love the show, tell a friend about it, post a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, thanks for listening to Liz's Healthy Table.